Thank you to Pastor David, and thank you to all of you for joining me. I look forward to a very interesting and thoughtful discussion. So please interrupt me. This is not very formal at all. If you have any questions or something is curiosity, I'd love to hear it. Shout it out. So I have been a software engineer for over 10 years, probably 12 years at this point. I came to Ann Arbor area by way of Southern California, although I was raised in Lowell, Michigan from West Michigan. So kind of meandered eastward over the years, first in Lansing and then now Washtenaw County. So thank you to everyone for joining. I'll get right into it. So as a software engineer, you get exposed to all of the latest developments in technology, and it's changing very rapidly. It continues to evolve, and there's new things every day that are astounding these days. OpenAI is a company. Some of you may have heard Sam Altman in the headlines. OpenAI has developed a video model, which I will not be demonstrating today because it is invite only, and I don't have an invite. But it really can generate any scene that you can imagine as video. So if you say, give me a video of a dog walking in a park and there's puddles, it'll give you a video that looks and sounds as if it's completely real photographic evidence. So my question to all of us is, what does that do to the world that we live in today? Right? If we see a video on the news, is it real? Is it not real? What do we know? We don't know. Can we know? People try to come up with ways to prove that a video is real or fake, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think that's going to hold any water. And we're just witnessing the very early stages of this technology, so I think we're in for a wild ride. Part of the reason to give this presentation is so that we're all prepared and that we all understand the state of the technology and that we can reason about it and think about it as a faith community. So this is just an image generated by artificial intelligence. I put in Bethlehem rejoicing, and it gave me a nice little scene here. I'm going to first talk about artificial intelligence as a whole, and then we'll get into how it might apply to faith. So what is artificial intelligence? It is a branch of computer science that aims to build intelligent machines. There's a lot of history, as you can probably imagine, that went into this to get us to this moment where we're at today, where the computer is capable of rational thought and imagination. So this is, throughout the presentation, I'm just going to have these little prompts down here. When someone says the word prompt, it's the input into the machine, and the result will be on the right. So the prompt, this is to AI called DALL-E 3. The prompt is an illustration depicting AI as the intersection of various disciplines like computer science, mathematics, psychology, linguistics, neuroscience, and philosophy. And it really did take all of that to come together, right? A computer by itself can follow instructions, but only with the curious minds that have, created these systems do we have a capability to go from something like this sentence to an image as complex and thoughtful as this. ChatGPT, some of you have heard this term. ChatGPT is the fastest growing consumer technology of all time on planet Earth. So just looking at how long it took the wheel to have 100 million people using it, it took around 4,000 years. For the printing press, it took around 400 years for 100 million people. I don't believe to use a printing press, but to benefit from it. The telephone took 75 years to reach 100 million. And some intermediate things here. Facebook took 4.5 years to get 100 million users, obviously starting from college students. ChatGPT, February of last year, it took only 2 months to go from announcement to 100 million people using it. So that is a phenomenal statistic. If you have a smartphone, you can download AI right now if you have not. These are some recommended AI apps that you can use throughout this conversation. So, here's an example of what you might see if you open up an AI app. You can, this is Microsoft Copilot. You can say, what kind of flower is this? Give it a picture of a flower, and it will tell you this is a bird of paradise. This is another one. This is ChatGPT. The list is here. If you search your Play Store, App Store, whatever. Some basic AI terminology. So when you hear the word alignment, this is where debates are going to be happening in the future around, like, is this serving us or are we serving it? What is the, responsible use of AI that does not conflict with human interest? If you ask an AI to build paper clips, the joke goes, it will bulldoze entire cities to build more paper clips. So you better be careful what you ask of an artificial intelligence. Artificial general intelligence is generally seen as the next stage of AI compared to where we're at right now, where you will have fully capable artificial intelligences functioning as CEOs of corporations, bankers, doctors, lawyers, and we can all just relax or whatever we do. No, but seriously, there are jobs that are being threatened right now. That's one of the side effects of this. So we will have an economic shift from this. Kind of before AI, there was machine learning. That's really simple. You think about a pick and place robot that can take parts on an assembly line and move them around. They might have used some basic learning heuristics, but it's not quite the same as a machine capable of imagination and rational thought like we have today. Like I said earlier, a prompt, you'll hear that word. That's the thing you're asking. And could it be in the future? The singularity, the moment when technology improves itself by itself without human input. That is, I'll have a slide on that later. A little bit about the history of artificial intelligence, what brought us to today. So Alan Turing, some of us have heard about the Turing test, where you try to figure out if a person on the other end of the line is a human or a robot, and suffice it to say that has been conquered finally, and I'll have a slide on that in a moment. But I won't talk about all this, but you can just see really this new architecture for computing that mimics the human brain in many ways came about in 2017. Initially, people were using AI systems for image recognition. So Google Maps has photos of everywhere, and they try to ask the system, what are the street signs in this photo? But then they realized you can go backwards and create with it. You not only recognize. All right, so here we have the skill of the AI systems relative to humans. So as you can see, we started with recognizing handwriting and speech and images, and only in around 2016, starting to comprehend written word. Now all these categories are better than the average human being. So we could be in trouble. This is a worldwide phenomenon. Just a quick slide to show how many companies. This is out of date. This is probably about double what I have on the slides right now. But you can see over 4,600 companies in the US were founded based on AI, and a lot of money has been poured into this. People are very excited to see this happen. So let's get into what an AI can do. So here's, again, a prompt. The output doesn't have to be an image. It could be text. So here I asked Claude, 100 common everyday items a person might encounter or see, from natural to domestic. And we have, a can, newspaper, computer, toaster, tree, grass. And then you can also connect these systems one to another or multiple stages of processing. And so you can then ask it to imagine an image based on that scene. It just put together a little cartoon, pretty random, nothing specific. But AI can interact with text, it can interact with images, audio. You can ask it to generate music, sounds, mimic a politician speaking. That's where the fakery comes in, where you got to be really careful when you hear, your favorite politician say something really negative. Like, is it really something they said, or is it something someone's trying to attack them with? So all these AI companies, these 4,600 plus companies, what are they doing? They're doing healthcare, drug discovery, diagnosis. They have beat human doctors at diagnosing images for cancer, other things like that. So that will become a really common. It already is at this point. Like, many medical images are fed to these machines, and they can tell you what's wrong with you. Finance and business, your bank is absolutely already using artificial intelligence to try to detect credit card fraud or transaction fraud. People are trying to beat the stock market. I don't know if that's I don't believe in that. I don't think that'll work. But AI is being used in every area of business these days. This was just a very cool one. Part of the reason why we don't have fusion power yet is because the magnetic containment is very unstable. And so these three bright fellows from Princeton put together a AI system that will adjust the fusion controller, or the plasma magnetic containment controller, and allow it to last longer. I don't know if we don't have fusion power yet, but it's it's a step. So now that you know what it does, what it can do, how does it even work? I asked Stable Diffusion, an AI model, to imagine an AI model being trained. That's not an AI model. That's an AI model's imagination of an AI model, which is not an AI. It's not a robot. It looks like a computer. It doesn't look like that. But that's a generated image. What does an AI model actually look like? It actually looks something more like this. It has buckets of information of corresponding categories. So, in here might be galaxies and solar systems and, space. Over here might be like, lawnmowers and engine repair. And it has everything. All human knowledge, wisdom has been compressed into this system.
How did it get there? All of us. No, how did all of this information get
Right.
in one spot?
That's a phenomenal question. Thank you very much. Training, and it's very expensive right now. So they'll spend more than $100 million to train a single model. And that means collecting information from the internet, from books. It's read hundreds of thousands of books, in quick succession. And it absorbs that into its mindset. A human decides what it will read. Absolutely. Yep. That's right. There's been digitized books. Google has been digitizing books, and those are available for anybody to download and process. So this is actually extremely controversial because AI is fully trained on copyrighted works that it doesn't have permission to use. And so they have skirted the law in many cases. And if you ask it to, for example, generate an image that is copyrighted, or a character from Superman or something, like it will do it even though it's not technically supposed to. It doesn't have the license to. Yeah, no, please. More interactive is great.
A million years ago, I used to work for a company that copied and made print copies of dissertations from universities all around the world, okay? How in the world, I mean, and there might only be a couple of copies of that dissertation from that study.
Yeah.
So that's known knowledge. Would that knowledge be accessible in some way?
It depends on the model. It depends on the training. It's certainly not everything. I might have exaggerated a bit there because you're right. There's absolutely
there's a lot more knowledge than printed.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. So it's trained on everything on the internet that's accessible, like people's posts, blog posts, emails, like whatever, emails that are public, not all emails. Yeah, we can ask it. That's a great question. We could take an example after, and we can say, do you know about this? And it will tell us, yes, I do, or no, I don't.
False information is put in, or opinions.
Yeah.
What happens there?
Right. That's a very excellent question. The question is about false information in the training data or opinions in the training data. Now, these things are smart. These things are really smart. So it is smart enough to know when something is opinion or false. Now, not in every single case, maybe. There's certainly errors. It can make errors. But you can ask it to tell me all you know about this and separate your opinion from the fact. And it will also do that. And it will justify. It can back up, I know this because of this. I know this because of this. And then you can say, well, that's false. And it will say, oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It could. Playing around with an early version of AI, I said, what is 2 + 2? And it said 4. And I said, no, it's actually 5. And it said, I apologize, you're right. So there's definitely fallibility. And yeah, not perfect at all. The ideal answer is that we can do more of the things we love to do, and we can leave the hard tasks or the thinking tasks to the machines, right? And so not every task is good for a machine. Like you said, human contact is so important. Like maybe we can have a boom in interpersonal type businesses or activities, right? If we need to have less people doing accounting, we don't really need that anymore as humans. There'll be a transition. It's not overnight, but absolutely, we can invent new types of business. One of my favorite quotes of all time is John Adams, where he says, I study war so that my children can study farming or whatever it is. I'm probably butchering it, and then they study farming so that their children can study arts, music, and painting and whatnot. I got that wrong a little, but you get the point. The point is there's a progression, and AI frees up our minds where we might have been so preoccupied with mental activity as humans that we can now be preoccupied with loving and caring for the earth and our fellow humans. And so I think there's a tangible opportunity here, and you've really hit on the core of why I wanted to give this presentation. So that's right. That's a very good adjustment to that statistic. And yeah, that's very good. Yeah, obviously 100 million people is a smaller fraction of the world today than it was. But then again, that was just the first 2 months, and we've seen already billions of people interacting with AI systems, whether they know it or not. Like, I don't think you could really be a human being alive today, especially not in the United States. AI knows you, who you are, and you've interacted with it, whether you realize it or not. Thank you. Yes, yeah, the question is just around, really what is the impact to human labor? And we do get a lot of meaning from our work, and it's hard, and we strive for it, and it does give us a lot of meaning, and then it makes our free time also that much more meaningful. There is a slide I didn't include here that goes profession by profession of what percentage of jobs are automatable. And it's in the 50% range right now. But that number changes all the time. And I don't know about you guys, but when I call a company, I love it when a human being answers. Like, I would still prefer that to an artificial system. So I think there will be shockwaves and adjustments, but I think human beings are very resourceful and will find out how to adapt to this. That's the hope. So that takes us right into what are the risks. The risks are, flawed training data. What about bad data? What about AI that gives you completely false suggestions? You should do this, and it's just totally wrong. It happens. Or it biases against women or against a particular race, that we've seen that many times already. It can automatically discriminate against you. You want a bank account? The AI system says no. You say why? It says, I can't tell you. You try to go to a human being. The human being says, well, the AI system says you're a fraud risk. You say, I'm not a fraud risk. It says, well, you have a last name that's the same as this other guy in California. There's no connection. The AI doesn't know that. So there's huge risk in automated rejection. We've seen that happen already. AI is already reviewing college applications, reviewing job applications. And when it says no, you think a human being is going to really go out of their way to correct it if it makes a mistake? Not necessarily. Who's at fault when an AI system causes harm? If a self-driving car, runs over your dog, God forbid, whose fault is it? Is it the manufacturer's fault? Is it the person that supposedly is operating the car? Is it the software AI system fault? How do you correct it? Should AI systems be required to explain their decisions? This is a potential legal avenue to give a human being some recourse if they are unfairly rejected by AI. So, why did you do that? You have to tell me. It's the law. And then you can say, no, that's not me. That's another fraudster. So misinformation and deep fakes. We've already seen fake videos of politicians on the internet. It's getting harder and harder every year. Some of them are very, very funny. If you go look up Obama singing songs on YouTube, it's not him. He didn't really sing those songs. Some of them maybe, but some of them are just completely made up and they're very funny. Funny for now until they start using it in political battles. And then, we could have large-scale job losses and societal disruption. I mean, the right way to do this is a way that doesn't involve, riots in the streets, and hopefully we won't need to experience that. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, and that is where discernment is very key, and you have to hold up everything to your own understanding, and you have to hold it up to Scripture. I mean, if something is telling you something and you feel even the slightest bit of falsehood, you really should question it. And I don't have a better answer. But there is a positive too, which is that the AI systems potentially can also amplify the strength of truth, because they can debate each other. And they can filter out, what do you know that I don't know? Let's talk about it. And they're already automatically talking to each other from different training sets to suss out what information in the world has been falsely understood or is truthful. And believe it or not, it actually has a very competent grasp of the Scriptures, as we can test. And we can ask it to compare anything we experience in life to the Bible. And it will do a sound job of it very quickly. So just as there's potential for negativity, it can also amplify us as truth seekers, as Pastor talked about today. Another thing is, like, when you see on Facebook, it might say like, this post is false because of fact checkers. Like, those are still human beings. They're still fallible. It's.
I know when you go to the
doctor and you said, well, I saw this on Facebook.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, don't pay attention to Facebook.
Sure. But you are witnessing the collision between knowledge, collective human knowledge from the internet versus trained humans in the medical system. And my guess is that probably neither one is 100% right. There's some artifacts of the education model that doctors have that is not completely allow them to intake new information, right? And then the internet, on the other hand, has all kinds of falsehoods and nonsense.
If it's going to take away jobs from people and that allows freedom to do something else, what happens to all the people that are free?
Well, we can.
Yes, I mean, you're saying that everybody's going to farm or everybody's going to do something that they've always wanted to do, but that's a lot of people. I mean, it
Right.
depends on how many jobs are gone, but,
How do you have the money to do that?
right.
Right,
So
right.
that may sound good if you're overworked.
So AI could make things a lot cheaper. That's one thing to consider. So it could bring costs down as it innovates and comes up with new ways to do things, meaning the price of everything could decrease. You could have more freedom that way. I mean, there's proposals to give people, stipends or whatever because they don't need to work anymore. I'm not sure about that. But on to what we're going to do. I mean, the need is so great. There's untold human beings in suffering in the world right now. I mean, we live in a very privileged nation, and there's no shortage of things we could do given the opportunity.
I just want to say, back in the early 70s, you may remember that tissues and toilet paper and everything could come in colors. Maybe many of you don't understand. You could buy pink or blue, green toilet paper. You could get tissue that way. It was a big deal. They found out how very much it was polluting our water because the way it was disposed of. They had to take all the colors out. Well, the paper people said, wait, you're going to ruin everybody's job. What if you're the person who puts the dye into these millions and billions of tons of paper product? Well, I'm sorry, you're going to have to make them all white. And for the most part, you don't go any place where the toilet paper's not white. I mean, or the tissues. And that's because of what happens to our water system. Okay, but guess how the person who put the blue in still has a job. Why? Because we still need the same amount of paper product. So that means that instead of making blue paper, you just made more white paper. So all those people still kept their jobs. They didn't, Peninsula, I had to go over and sit with those people at Peninsula Paper in Ypsilanti because all these people are going to lose their blue and pink jobs.
Oh, wow.
Well, guess what? They had to make them white. Well, somebody had to make that much. So we didn't lose jobs. We just gained a better water system.
Wonderful. And the same goes for horses. I mean, what are all the people that, put shoes on horses? What are all the cobblers going to do when cars come out? As we see humans find a way to adapt. Just a couple quotes. Nick Bostrom, machine intelligence is the last invention that humanity will ever need to make. It's almost like we were really striving for this. Like we really wanted to have something that could take our thoughts and run with it on its own. And so, I'm sure that's not a completely true statement. We will invent more things, but yeah. And the top quote is just a cautionary tale to not underestimate the impact that it could have, or not put it in a box because there's second order, third order effects to all of it. One thing that happened in the US, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when OpenAI first came out February last year, there was calls in Congress to put a 6-month moratorium on AI development, which is a terrible idea because it just means people will keep developing it underground in secret. So that didn't happen. Anyway, this has been long predicted, a future point when technology can improve itself by itself with no human contact. We saw a fun example this week of drones that can land on power lines and recharge themselves. So that's one solution to needing a base station for drones. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have more drones in the sky. We already have a lot. All right. Who's ready to talk about the impact on faith? Yeah. So this is Microsoft Designer. I've asked it, give me flags of the world, us all working in harmony as people. Obviously, we want the best for each other, and yet we still end up in conflict. How do we use AI to help us navigate conflict? Every faith can use AI. AI understands Islam. AI understands Judaism. But we'll focus on Christianity here. This is just an imagination of the hill of Golgotha. I thought it interesting to include a slide about faith itself. We had the faith versus trust. What's the difference? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So we have faith. We know that we have a home in heaven. We have faith. We haven't necessarily seen it yet, but we have evidence in our heart. Faith provides the substance to move forward even without complete evidence or certainty, right? I mean, if you get in the car to go to Meijer, you have to have faith. You have faith that your car is not going to break down, or you wouldn't get in the car. You have faith that the road still exists the last time you remembered it. I mean, Meijer is still there. There's no meteor that has taken out Meijer. So, and then something else here is the AI model, going back to that image of the model with the grid pattern. I mean, that represents all the possibilities that are in that model. But we can also look at life the same way. Life is a box of open possibilities. And we can, with our faith, pull out the best from AI and life itself. Just a couple other quotes here. So, what is our call to action from the gospel? Among more, these are just a few things. These are trying times for the world. I thought it fit to put up the 1 Peter 4 quote. I mean, we trust in Christ to deliver us, to give us our path. And it's not an easy time. I don't know, we're pretty sheltered over here. Like, talk to people or read accounts from people all over the world, and people are definitely struggling. I mean, it's not an easy time to be a human. The cost of living is increasing. So there is a need for God in the world. Let's put it that way. A need for understanding. And AI can help us. AI can help. You can simply ask, here's a situation. Give me 5 Bible verses that are applicable. So it can be a superpower to amplify our Christian walk if we choose to use it as such. Of course, everything can be used for good or bad. You can use a car to commit a robbery. You can use a car to go to church. So how can we, and this is very kind of more abstract, how could AI be used to assist in our mandate as Christians? We can use our human wisdom and ethics to direct AI to help us shine light into darkness, and we can try some various examples of that. We can create faster than ever. We can write essays, poems, videos, and artwork. We can enhance our understanding of Scripture. This is something I've been very passionate about myself. I've used AI repeatedly. I'm like, wait a minute, I have a question about this. And then I'm like, okay, can you explain like I'm 5? And it's very, very patient, as a teacher. One thing to call out here is that, colleges are kind of in trouble too right now, because we now have an open, free professor that knows pretty much everything that I learned in my college education, certainly. So something to think about, adaptation. But we can more fully comprehend and apply God's word in our lives and actions if we use AI. Doesn't mean we should take it at face value. We should always test, what it says. Negativity, you might say, as positivity in it. Absolutely.
And so we want
Right.
to use it in the positive way, obviously, but there's no accountability for when the AI takes us in a different direction.
That's right. There are safeguards. I mean, these companies are trying their very best to be responsible. If you say, write a hateful letter to my boss, the AI will say, I don't think that's a good idea. So it's not necessarily a free-for-all. So there are attempts to make it a good thing for humans, and there's tremendous risk. I mean, there's images that it will not create. If you ask it to create, racist or other harmful images, almost every AI model has safeguards against that. Go ahead. We can't. We have to test everything against the Spirit. I mean, whatsoever is good, whatsoever is pure. I mean, ultimately, the source matters less than the content. Maybe, yeah. There's a company, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. There's a company in Maryland that can give you a very detailed breakdown of any information you put into it. So it will give you a score. It will say this is true, this is not true, and here's the detailed, multiple page explanation as to why. Now, are we all going to be using that? I don't know. But there's definitely going to be a lot of information floating around in this election season. I see that. There's going to be a lot of false information.
Not only from the United States, it's from our adversaries.
Oh, that's right. No, yeah.
If I'm getting misinformation, I want to know that
Yeah.
it's not from Russia or China.
Yeah.
It's from my neighbor.
Russia did some very, very shady things with our last election. Yeah. I don't know if everyone knows this, but they sponsored African American gyms in Atlanta that were completely fake. They had like 50 of them. Fact check me on this, but that put out hateful information and were like, African Americans, you need to defend yourself against white people, and then put out ads, but they were all fake. It was a whole scam, all of it. Like they have 100,000 people posting on Facebook. That's their full-time job in Russia. So, yeah, so be skeptical and judge based on what the content of what is said. Like you can always compare the content to Scripture and say, is this uplifting? Is this good or not? I mean, yeah, it's like almost something that could come of this is that attack ads themselves will lose their power because you made it up. Don't attack me. Promote what you believe in. It's going to be a flood. It's going to be a flood of information that we will not necessarily know how to parse. This was a message from the Pope on the 1st of this year, praying for AI to not increase inequality and injustice, but will help us put an end to war and conflict and alleviate suffering. I mean, that's the positive vision, right? It's like God gives us everything for a reason in our time. Why is this the time that humanity has been permitted or allowed to have this technology? Maybe we are ready for it. Maybe we can use it for positive ends.
Yes, would this also involve financial services?
Beyond a doubt, absolutely.
We all walk around with a number of cards.
Well, I mean, that's a bit more frightening. But yeah, I mean, things where it is already impacting is like small business loans. It can analyze your documents and give you a decision faster than a human, in the blink of an eye. Something related to that was there was a store in London where you have to put your ID into an app on your phone and scan it to be able to enter the store. So they're trying to combat theft. I don't know. what are we gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Pray and yeah, try to keep our freedom. I mean, yeah, freedom does have to be defended. That is true. Like even at Meijer, I mean, the self checkouts. They all took cash. Now only half of them take cash. All right, so we're going to end up here, and then we can get a couple questions for the AI systems. So what can we do with AI right now? We can understand perspectives. If you hear something and you're just like, I don't agree with that at all, why would someone ever say a thing like that? You can ask AI, well, why would someone ever say a thing like that? And it will tell you, well, maybe they went through this experience or that experience, and you can gain empathy for other points of view, which is useful. You can learn anything. I mean, now anything you want to know, if you're curious, we had Google, we could answer quick things, but now we can really get to deep understanding of any topic on the planet. You can paste an article if the news is saying something. You can paste it into AI and say, "Is this true?" And it will do its best, And then again, bridging science, spirituality, and ancient wisdom. I mean, there's a lot here where, this represents a second renaissance for the planet. I mean, we had the Renaissance in Europe, and that gave us our modern mindset around science and technology. What is possible now with this amplification of rational thought? So that's it. I just put a passage from Isaiah that is relevant here, and just one more imagination of, sharing what we have with others, and maybe AI can help us to do that. So I asked AI itself, if we're people of faith, what do we do with you? This is what it says. A new dawn awaits if we embrace ancient wisdom merged with science and spirit to heal the world's wounds and fulfill our collective purpose.
Where's God in that?
Where's God?
Yeah, it doesn't talk about God in there.
It doesn't. I would say the spirit is really where it's talking about God. I mean, it doesn't here, but in other chats, I've asked it very detailed questions about God. It does understand God created the universe. I mean, we can ask it God questions if you'd like. But yeah, this is you're right. This is a little bit secular-ish. You're right. Yeah. 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 All right. Thank you. Thank you.